Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse. And this is Midday with Rev Don. Welcome. And today we will have a lovely midday conversation as we do most days. And I invite you to join the conversation by adding your comments or questions to whatever platform you're watching this on. It will appear in my chat room, and I'll be happy to talk to you directly. Um, I do want to say that tomorrow I will not be doing a broadcast because I have a doctor's appointment that I made before I started this broadcast and therefore made it at a time that conflicts. But I will be back on Thursday. And as you know, I'm also engaged in the sale of books from my library and jewelry from the family collection. Um, and hello to Elizabeth in the chat room, who is actually Lilith. Hello, Lilith. It's good to see you. Um, and we probably will be talking a bit about that today. I am expecting to be joined by a guest who is not here yet. And I thought some of the things I would talk about will pertain to the sale, but then when the guest gets here, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the future. But for example, um, if you've been watching the jewelry, you'll notice that my mother was fond of scatter pins. And so very often in the different demi-parures and parures that are going up, hello to Mary in the chat room, there'll be multiple earrings, not just two, but there'll be extras that could be used as clips on the costume or the shoes, as I'm wearing this one today here on my lapel. Hello to Mary, both Marys in the chat room. And in some cases, the entire parure is going up for sale. In some cases, I'm keeping one of the earrings for myself, particularly this kind. I've also been talking about how my mother used some of her jewelry in amuletic ways, particularly pieces that were the shape of shields. She used for exactly that, shielding against attack or negativity. Some in the shape of crowns that were used to draw success to a situation, and so forth. So this particular clip I have kept for myself, though the rest of the parure, which is complete to all intents and purposes, will be going up tomorrow. There are a lot of interesting pieces. There are going to be actually a couple of pieces, a few pieces that belong to my grandmother Mabel, and also some pieces that belong to Caroline High-Correll, the founder of the Correllian tradition. Not many from her, because for one thing, there aren't that many left from her. And we're not letting go of everything. But there are a couple of pieces that we thought would be appropriate to include. And so a couple of small pieces of jewelry will be finding their way into this sale. But most of it was my mother's. There's a piece up of Lady Bitterwind's, or will be a piece up of Lady Bitterwind's. I've been preparing tomorrow's offerings, and that's kind of where we're at. And Lilith says they've heard of a term called glamour magic, and that what I'm talking about with the jewelry is very similar. It is very similar. And my guest has joined us.
All right.
There we
Hey,
are.
guys. Yeah. I'm trying to do no background. There we go.
Yes. And how are you today, Sir Edward?
Yeah, glamour magic. I love that. Oh, good. I just walked in a conversation. I see glamour magic. One of my favorites. One of my favorite forms of magic.
I was talking about how some of the jewelry that's being offered is enchanted. It was used for magical purposes, while other pieces are merely jewelry. But for example, the piece I'm wearing today, it was used for magical purposes.
Right.
And this particular piece I'm keeping for myself, but the rest of the matching pieces will be going up tomorrow.
Yep. And so here we go. I already passed coffee this morning.
Yes, we have been, particularly Sir Ed has been working very hard on this situation, and me too.
Yeah. And well, at the same time, we're working really hard to keep out the anxiety and all the pressures and all of the things that we deal with that. Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because I know that that is important. Because remember, you're still in recovery. People forget. I mean,
that's
you're,
true. Hmm.
yeah, there were only 2.5. Well, this is very may seem right. You're going to be on the 11th. I mean, we're second. We're just we're not even 3 months in, and
No.
you'll be getting evaluated and things like that. So people realize that it is. Um, all right. So you were talking about your jewelry. Go ahead, continue.
um, I think I had made the points I was going to make. There will be a number of more offerings coming tomorrow. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be highlighting my grandmother Mabel's hats. I have a collection of her hats that have been preserved all these years. Um,
My mind was blown when I saw them.
hmm,
When I pulled them out of the storage, my
yeah,
mind was blown. Their box are beautiful. They're beautiful, beautiful.
she was known for her hats. In fact, one of her nicknames was Hattie because she loved hats so much.
Mm-hmm.
And she also had been a milliner in her day. She had been trained to make her own hats. Although I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that any of these were necessarily handmade by her. I have to see what's in there. Hello to Joanne in the chat room and to Vivian. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know there is a particularly spectacular pheasant feather pork pie hat, which was
Mm-hmm.
inspired by the 1860s revival craze that followed the premiere of the Gone with the Wind movie in 1938.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not sure if it's going to be in that box or not. I haven't looked through it, but it should be there or nearby. I do remember seeing red velvet and black velvet, and these were very emblematic of the kind of hats my grandmother wore. My grandmother had jet black hair, and she enjoyed matching that with a black velvet hat. So it could be hard to tell where the hair started and the hat left off. Um, it was taking
Mm-hmm.
advantage of what you had, so to speak. And
Absolutely.
my mother always emphasized that she had brown hair while my grandmother had black hair.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother was the only person who actually thought that. Everyone else regarded her as having black hair. My grandmother's hair was just more of a blue black. So there you go.
There you go. I remember popping open that box and then turning around, just closing it. I got it right here.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go ahead and let out a little bit of schedule because, oh yeah, I forgot the library in Don's space was the operating library. When I went into the storage locker, I forgot we have a much larger research library,
Hmm.
about the same size as your operating library
Or larger.
or larger. So we have to be done with all of let's everybody know the drop dead deadline. This is
Hmm.
not a forever project. It
No.
may feel like it at times, but this will end on the 16th
Hmm.
with all records being caught on the 17th and 18th. For various reasons, but that's a hard deadline. So we have 2 weeks to get this all in front of you,
Hmm.
and and make sure that it's there. So if there are things I think that you want right now, everybody that, but if you see things you want towards the end, and might take time to pay, let's talk about that. But everything must be shipped from here on May 31st. Period.
Hmm.
And we've got people to help and everything else. So when May ends, this weird moment in history will be over,
Yes.
and it'll be over in 2 weeks. From my point of view, it means I'm putting up whole categories of books. A lot of them for $10, some a little bit more, and today is going to be astrology. We got Egyptian. We got so much. So I'm literally going to be going through thousands of books, and we'll see how we go with that.
Except for 3 books, the entire astrology section from the library is going.
Yeah,
So there are a lot of good books there.
26 to be exact. I was just looking at one right now. Oh, here's one: Megaliths, Myths, and Men's, and it is a introduction to astroarchaeology.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Fascinating
That
subject.
there we go. So yeah, we also got, for a little bit more obscure, we haven't put it up yet. We've got things like this too. Roman
Hmm.
architecture. We've got a whole section of Roman art, Egyptian, and Greek stuff coming up. So,
Yes, indeed.
yeah. Um, I guess. Oh, Lilith. Yeah, you're in Netherlands. If we could do it some way, figure out how to send it over to Netherlands, I would love to. But a large box, is $100.
Yeah.
I mean, so if there's something you really want to talk about, people overseas, we'll talk to you.
Yeah,
We'll
of
have to make a
course.
large. We'll have to probably make a larger purchase, and we can help offset some of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But if you're overseas, but we can't play. We can't send you just a book. Hmm? We might be able to send you a piece of jewelry, but we just can't send you one book or two books. It would
Hmm.
have to be. It'd have to be worthwhile to have a premium of $100 in there, where we would have to deal with it. So more or less, if you're looking to be shipped overseas, you might as well be looking at a large box, priority box, as much as we can fill into that, because
Hmm.
that'll cost us $100 to ship. Hmm?
Yes.
How's that for an answer? And that'll be same true of that. So let's talk about Monday a little bit. So Thursday you're doing the hats,
Yes.
and then Friday we'll put up the last of it. And because the Paladins are doing their thing, we're probably not going to be putting as much up on over the weekend. Not until
Yeah.
Sunday night. So you'll probably see then Sunday night will be bursting back open again. Hmm? Hmm?
Hello to
And
Lori in the chat room.
yeah, I'm so glad you understand about overseas shipping costs. But if a large enough volume were, and if a couple of people in Europe were to come together, you could ship out again. I don't know have a real good solution, but I'm willing to work with us others to have a solution. So Sunday night will probably be a big burst. Monday begins, I think, the ritual objects. We have statues. We have all sorts of ritual objects. And some of it we're going to keep. We've decided there's an inkwell of particular importance we're keeping to take to the new temple, to take to the new space and Danville. And don't get it wrong, there are things we're taking, and it's slowly, surely creeping up a little bit. So we're really um, grateful for all these purchases and everything else.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
mhm. um, So more or less, we've raised about $1,200 with more money that is still outstanding that have not paid, but have actually paid out so far about $1,200 between books and jewelry already.
Hmm.
Um, so more to come. So that's my update. I will leave you back to your favorite host, Don, unless there's anything Don wants to ask. But here's what it is, folks. The thing that I wanted to message today, we're going to keep putting safe stuff up. Look at me and Don's. Why we keep going to our pages. Please share it to other pages. Um, this is ours. This is our piece. This is something we're doing. Um, this is about helping Don and me. So this is not directly with any other group but us, me and Don. So that's what we're doing it off Ed's page and Don's page, and we're sharing it out to other places. So please share. 2 weeks from today is a dead hard line. So if you and talk to us. So I think that's it for me.
Well, thank
Uh,
you for joining us.
I'm going to get back to me, and I'll be on with the Daily Spell this evening. And there we go. Peace.
Peace. So, so that's kind of where I'm at. And, I was talking, I believe, was it Monday? Maybe it was Friday, but I've been talking about this subject for a while, and I don't want to totally monopolize Midday with Reverend Don with the sale, but we might be for a little bit because it's just such a pressing issue. But I am looking at this not as a dispersing of this legacy, so much as a sharing of this legacy with our Corellian family. Um, Everyone who has purchased anything so far of the jewelry, at least, has been Corellian, and most of them people who I've known for years and years and years. And I'm so happy to see these pieces go to the people who are getting them. I feel very good about that. So I've had people ask me if it's not difficult to do this, and it's not difficult as I thought it would be, and this is one of the reasons. Um, it's not going where I thought it would eventually go, but I can see that it's going where it should go, and I'm very happy for that. Um, Many of the most important pieces are going to many of the most important people in my life. I could not be happier for that. Um, many. I mean, it for me it reinforces that these things are being guided by spirit to the people who are meant to have them, and instead of being concentrated in just one pair of hands, this legacy that I've carried all these years is now being shared out among many. And I feel pretty good about that. And as far as the library goes, I'm keeping the pieces that are unusual and irreplaceable. But most of the information in the books in this library I can find online with no difficulty. In most cases, I could find the book online with no difficulty. Um, and so I'm not particularly bothered by that either. I mean, in a manner of speaking, I will be more unencumbered than I have ever been in my life because I've been carrying this all these years. And I'm kind of looking forward to not having to think about, well, where do I put this gigantic library? Um, oh, I can't change houses because look at all I have to move, and I won't have to deal with that particular problem again. And I am rather looking forward to that. And so it's an ongoing process. There's a lot more to be done. You can see all the books still in their cases. Not every one of them will go, but the majority are going. And so if you're interested in a very nice collection of books and a lot of metaphysical books, I mean, this is the time. And um, I've also had people say to me that, oh, hello to Jedi in the chat room. I've had people say to me that I could be asking much larger sums of money for the jewelry, and that is true. Some of these are worth considerably more than I'm asking. But one, I have a time limit, and finding the person who's willing to pay what it's worth is a whole other matter. And two, I'd rather see them go to the people they're going to. And I cannot overstate that. Rather than a collector I've never met, to know that pieces are going to members of our Corellian family who I know and love, that's wonderful. Um, and Lori in the chat room says, even the energy that is in the books is amazing. They'll make a great addition to any temple or personal library. And yeah, I would say that. And as Edward was saying, almost the entire astrology collection is going up, and that's 26 books on astrology. Some of them from a very unusual viewpoints, although I think 3 astrology books I kept because I felt that what is in them was important enough that I wanted to make sure I kept them, and I didn't know for certain if I would be able to locate that information anywhere else. And I'm sure I could have replaced the books, but I figured I can keep 3. I kept Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow by Jean Dixon, which is a very interesting combination of astrology and numerology, although I had 2 copies. One copy is actually going with the other astrology books, and one is staying with me. And the fact that I had 2 copies should tell you how highly I valued that book. Heaven Knows What by Grant Louis, which I consider probably the best book on the relationship between planets and astrology. In my personal opinion, I am keeping that one. Although there might be another copy of that too that might find its way out. And the final one was probably the first really good book on astrology that I ever owned, which I kept actually more for the artwork than anything else. But I do like the artwork. So Other than those three, the other 26 books are all going up. And there may be more to come because I don't know for certain that all the astrology books had actually made it into what Edward described as the working library. Some of them may yet be in the storage space and going up later. Um, it's very interesting after all those years of collecting books to watch them going out. But the world has changed. Um, while I've had this library set up, it's mostly been a filming backdrop. And there are a few books that I have used while I've been here, and those are the ones I'm keeping. But there are others that, um, you know, I know everything that's in them. I remember it well, but I've had no occasion to refer back to them. And, as opposed to paying thousands of dollars to carry them across country, I'd rather see them go to someone who will appreciate them and use them, and who has not memorized the contents 40 years ago. And so that's where I'm at with that. Um, and, we were talking the other day about psychometry in connection to things like the jewelry. And when you have a piece like this, even the pieces from the library have energy from the people who have had them, which is me, and sometimes Lady Crystal, sometimes Sir Edward, sometimes my late father or my late mother, because this library included an entire section from before the year 1900, which has not come out yet, but I imagine that it will. It was quite the collection. And Vivian in the chat room remarks that the world has definitely changed a lot, and in their opinion, not so much for the best. I don't know that I agree with that. I wish when I was young and I was collecting all these books, I could have accessed this information as easily online as I can do today. I find it amazing to, Fedor Ivanowitz has the saying that we love to quote, that pagans don't have sacred books, they have sacred libraries. And the online resources are the best library I've ever seen. Books that I would have very little chance before the internet of having ever acquired, I can find in virtual form quite easily, and have done. So I think in many ways it's a good change. But the one thing that is constant about life is change, and every change we've had technologically and culturally over time, some people have felt was not good. And it's arguable sometimes what we mean by good. The agricultural revolution, the first one in the Paleolithic period, was absolutely necessary because the foods that we had relied upon previously just were no longer there. But the second one that came during the Renaissance displaced a lot of people and caused a lot of human misery. And yet, it also moved us from subsistence farming to serious modern farming. I don't know that we'd want to give that up for all the difficulties that it caused when it happened. The same with the Industrial Revolution. A lot of people were displaced, a lot of misery was caused by the Industrial Revolution, and a lot of governments were overthrown because of just how angry people were with that state of affairs. But I don't know that we would not want to have that technology today. I don't know. I was having a conversation with Sir Ed last night about protein, and how in our world, the idea of protein being scarce is virtually unthinkable. We have an excess of protein in the developed world, but that certainly wasn't true for our ancestors. And hello to Cheryl May in the chat room. Welcome. We're coming down to probably the last 5 minutes of today's program, but we're talking about all kinds of different things. And right now, it's the changes that happen in the world. But when I think about my childhood, I remember that that fresh fruit really could only be had in season still. I remember I can remember that discussion when my mother would go to the grocery store and I would be going with her, that she was looking for what was in season. Um, Today, I don't know if most people even know what season certain fruits are ripe in because they're not getting them that way. I mean, in our refrigerator right now, there are blueberries and there may be strawberries, there are oranges, we have bananas, all kinds of different fruits with no reference to what season they would previously have been available in, because they're available all the time now. I think that's a wonderful change. Disruptive, perhaps, but wonderful. And I think the changes that are happening now, though they will undoubtedly be disruptive, uh, will probably also have a wonderful side to them. And I think we have to look at all of Lori and Lady Lori in the chat room remarks that she can remember when fruit was so hard to get in the winter, and it was. Not now. Some parts of the world, it probably still is. Um, but for all the aspects of the production and distribution of fruit today, um, that perhaps are not always positive, I don't think I'd want to give up year-round access to fruit. There was a time that um, people prized fruit because without it they might end up with scurvy. And going through the winter, that could be a real thing. That's why it used to be that giving an orange or an apple during the winter holidays was a big deal because it might be the only real vitamin C from the orange that you were likely to get during the winter. And so not only did you want it, but it probably tasted far better to them than it does to us because they were starving for vitamin C. Um, and Vivian remarks that you used to have to buy Harry and David fruit in the winter to have it shipped to you. Absolutely. Um, and yes, it's been a huge change in how things are done. And so I'm sure we're going to see a lot of changes in the future. The dissolution of my library is reflective of those changes. Now, I'm still going to have a library. It's just not going to be 10,000 volumes. And I may rebuild some of the parts that I'm selling off now, depending on what happens. But, for my personal use, again, for the first time in my life, I'm keeping what I will personally use and not thinking about um, posterity, for want of a better way to put it. And that is a very different way for me to look at things. Um, and so with that, I'm going to thank you for joining me. Again, I will not be here tomorrow because I have a doctor's appointment, but I'll be back on Thursday when we will be discussing hats, and probably physical hats, but also the metaphysics of hats. And if you're not familiar, there definitely is a metaphysics of hats. And it, in its way, can be quite important. All of clothing has a metaphysical aspect. So thank you all for joining me, and let us close with a prayer as we do each day. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to be with us and guide us as we go forward. Help us to know what is important in our lives and what is not, and to treasure that which is precious, and allow to pass on that which has served its purpose in our lives. And may this be so not only in terms of the things, the material things that we deal with, but also with the experiences and lessons of our lives. Let us keep the good and let the rest move forward to where it needs to be. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and with respect. And may you be blessed now and always. And may you be blessed now and always. And I will see you next time.